As far as after the after effect, um, what are some examples of some PTSD that you're or have or are kind of dealing with? I kind of want to talk about this just so that you know individuals realize maybe what to expect.
It's
Yeah.
very important to talk about because again, this was something I had no idea. Actually, the day that he left the house, I think was October 21st of 2016. I was going to university at the time. I was working like part time at a retail store, and I came home from work that night and he was gone. And it was the first moment that I realized he was gone. The very next day, I had to go to school. I had a night class at my university, and I noticed that my hand was shaking. Like I had developed a shaking disorder. I had developed anxiety. When he would yell and scream at me, I would develop this anxiety. And I noticed that when I went to open the door, I was shaking again. And I thought, well, why am I shaking now? He's not here. He's not yelling and screaming at me and projecting onto me.
Yeah.
Um, and I opened the door and I got in my car and I suddenly became terrified to be out in public, to be out on the street. I thought everywhere that I went, he was going to see me. So I was like literally driving to my university, which is only like a 10-minute drive. And I was like, looking at all, every time I stopped for a red light, I was looking around. Do I see him? I parked my car and I would like duck behind cars to run into the building. I was like, what is going on? This is very unusual. And that night also, I started having nightmares, horrendous nightmares, seeing things that are just totally unearthly. Like I would see like the worst kind of animals and mutations of people and things. And the only other time I've heard about people experiencing dreams like this is in near-death experiences when they have experienced hell instead of heaven. When you talk about people experiencing near-death experiences who have gone to hell, they often talk about seeing these unhuman, just really
I've never heard of that.
yeah. Um,
I'm gonna
it's
look
it,
that up. Wow.
there's these demonic things. Like I would just see these things, and
Oh my
I
god.
I was hearing voices, I was hallucinating, and I was having nightmares steadily for 2 years. I had nightmares for 2 years. I became really afraid to leave the house, like literally. Um, I became unable to cope with anything. I remember being in my, I had like one more semester to go to get my master's degree, and I was sitting in my advisor's office. And the only class that was available for me to take was an English literature class, and I hate English literature. And I remember screaming at her, "I can't do this class. I can't read a book. I can't." I'm like, "You don't understand." I was yelling and screaming at everybody. I couldn't cope with normal everyday things. I couldn't go shopping. Um, so I started self isolating. I quit my job. I started doing an online work from home job, and I didn't leave the house for close to 2 years. I mean, other than to
Wow.
go and get like I could go out. It came to a point where I was able to go outside, but I no longer socialized. I lost all my friends. Um, if I go outside, I always tell people I'm not agoraphobic. I'm not afraid to go outside, but I just don't want to be in social settings anymore or interacting with people. So it's affected my ability to work. It's affected my cognitive functioning. I was telling you earlier today that I can't like even trying to figure out like the difference in the time zone between my state and California. It's like, okay, wait, is it 3 hours before, 3 hours after? Like I get so confused with cognitive functions. Definitely getting forgetful. It's affected my health. I gained a lot of weight without eating, which I found out
Wow.
later is visceral weight gain from stress. When we're stressed, we tend to gain weight uh, even without eating, overeating. Um, so there's been a lot of things that are still affecting me even 5 years later.
Wow. Have you noticed a change? Have you noticed a change in that? Like, is there any hope for people who leave? Does it kind of subside as the years go on? What does that look like?
I follow a couple of groups on Facebook. which are full of women who are in the same situation as me, who are also discarded. And I noticed that I see a lot of them uh, saying the same things. It's been 4 years, it's been 5 years, it's been 6 years since I was discarded, and I still cry every day, and I still feel sad. So I think it really depends on the person. But my unofficial theory, my unscientific theory, is that the older you are when this happens to you, the harder it is for you to recover. I noticed the people who seem to be bouncing back and getting into new relationships are in their 20s or
Well,
maybe early 30s.
yeah,
But I was 48 years old when I was discarded. For me, this was my start over relationship, because I was 40 years old when I married him. It was my second marriage, so that was my start over.
got
And
it.
so I don't feel, for me, like I'll never have another relationship again, and it's not like an intentional thing, like, oh, right, I hate men now. It's not that at all. I just don't have anything left inside of me. I feel like I was drained emotionally, I was drained physically, and I don't feel that there's any hope for me. I mean, I live, I breathe, I get up every day, I eat, I drink coffee. I'm obviously still living, but at some point, I feel like I'm watching a movie when I see other people. Like if I go out and I sit alone in a restaurant and I'm watching other people living normal lives, I feel like I'm watching a movie. I feel like I'm in a virtual reality that I'm not really participating in anymore, but I'm just there. And a lot of other people on these Facebook groups have noted feeling the same way, that they feel like they're in an alternate universe, in a virtual reality, and no longer part of this world.
Wow. Do you think that there has been a change in how much you trust yourself or your intuition?
I trust myself very well, because I also have a psychic ability, a very strong psychic ability, which I talk about in my book. Unfortunately, a psychic can very rarely read for themselves. I can read other people, but I do trust myself.
Oh,
But at the same point, I find myself trusting people a lot less in general, um,
makes sense.
not just men, but everybody. I feel that there's no need to really invest. In starting a relationship or a friendship with someone, because it's just going to end up, you know, um, hurting me in some way. That's kind of, so I feel like I trust myself because I resisted that gaslighting so strongly. I didn't fall for any of it. I didn't believe any of it.
It's awesome.
So I feel like I trust myself, but I don't trust others.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I totally appreciate that.